Writing an icon with elementary schools. Hi everyone, this is 7A for the younger grades. We're going to need a little bit of brown paint. We're often looking at pictures, but icons are special because they're designed so that we realize that they're looking at us. That's why today's lesson is actually super important, even though it's super easy and super quick. We're going to be painting the eyebrows. We're also going to paint two little hairs on the top of Jesus's hair. And we're going to paint the eyes, which have two parts, the eyelid and the pupil. So let's get started with the painting part. The first thing that we have to do is put in the eyebrows, and they're right here. Now the eyebrows are pretty practical. Jesus would look funny if he didn't have eyebrows. All humans have eyebrows, except for those people who don't know how to barbecue well. They might not. Anyway, there's not too much to say about the eyebrows. I recommend painting inside the line at the top and all of the higher part, but if you do the bottom line as well, your eyebrow might seem very thick. So do it kind of like in the picture, but if you have thicker eyebrows, that's okay too. So let's do it. Don't forget, there's two eyebrows. Before I give the next instruction, I'd like both of these eyebrows painted. Dip your brush, maybe wipe off some of the extra paint, and then start painting one eyebrow. Good. Don't forget to get all inside that crease on the top. Looks pretty awesome. Excellent. Now let's do the second eyebrow. Okay, dip your paint again. Paint across it. Yep, don't forget that top edge. Looks pretty wonderful. I hope you've got the eyebrows done now. Maybe let's move to the next thing. If you're still not finished, just keep going. The next thing that we're going to paint is the two hairs on the top of Jesus's head. I mentioned these before because they represent the fact that Jesus is both human and divine. So I paint in right inside that crease, right inside the carving. You don't really need to put any outside the carving. Inside the carving is good enough. Let's do it. Dip your paintbrush in and start painting. Hey, you guys are getting good at this. I think that looks great. Excellent. I hope that's enough time for you to do the two hairs on Jesus's forehead. Now comes for a little bit of you have to aim a little bit better part. I would like you to do a thin line, if you can, for the top eyelid. Now, the eyelid is actually that skin that covers your whole eye, and we don't want to paint the whole entire eyelid. We really only want to paint the bottom edge. That's where it's carved in. Now you'll notice there's a couple different lines there, so you have to figure out which line I'm talking about. So look at the picture, and I've put a line on top of the part that you're supposed to paint. Now compare that to what you have. Make sure you figured out the right line. If you need your teacher to help, you can ask your teacher. And you're going to try and paint that with just a thin line from one side of the eye to the other side of the eye. If you make it a little thicker, that's okay. Jesus will have thicker eyes. We're not supposed to all have perfect eyes. We do our best, and Jesus will be very proud of us if we do our best. Now let's make sure we get the other eye too. So again, We're just doing the bottom edge of the upper eyelid. If the teacher needs to pause, now is a good time so that everyone can keep up together. Next, we're going to do the iris and the pupil together. Now, an eye has three parts to it. There's the part that kind of looks white. We call that the white of the eye. There's the colored part, which is a circle. That's called the iris. And in the middle of the iris, there's the pupil. That's the little black dot that you have in your eyes. If you look at someone else's eyes, you'll be able to see all three of those things. Well, in this icon and with the paints that we have, what I want you to do is to paint the iris and pupil together with our dark brown. So I've outlined it here on the picture. Let's get painting. And now, for the rest of this lesson, you can put your paintbrush down and just listen and watch for a little bit. Because I want to tell you about how icons are actually focused on us, on you and me, and everyone who looks at an icon. This is going to seem a little bit weird because most things that we look at don't do this. You know what? When I grew up, there was a show called Sesame Street, and it taught me a lot about something called perspective. There was Grover, and Grover did a skit about near and far. Sometimes he came right up to the screen and he was near, and other times he was very far. And when he was near, look at the size of my nose. And when I'm far, look at the size of my nose now. Well, I know this is going to go over some of your heads, but icons aren't painted in normal perspective like Grover showed. They're painted in inverse perspective. In normal perspective, everything vanishes to some point in the background. But in inverse perspective, everything comes forward to you. And that's because you are the reason for the icon. You are part of the whole picture. You're the center part. Well, I don't know if you got all of that, but just remember, God is watching you, watching Him. So keep praying, and we'll see you at the next session.